Well, hello. How are you? Great, I hope. This is a video response to a topic that has been sent to me in email that caught my eye and attention. And I decided to make a video about it because I feel it's necessary for women, particularly living in Europe and North America, such as myself, who are achieving and striving to bring forth independence for not just ourselves and our families, but to figure out what we as women identify ourselves as, and what we are here to kind of play the role as and play the guardian as and show the people the way, if that makes any sense. Sometimes I don't even know. But let's go through the question and the topic, if it is a question, but it's more so about a topic. So I'm going to read you the email. Hi, I just watched your YouTube video and I would love for you to speak about the following topics. Male microchimerism in women and how it affects our DNA and the issues it adds to our lineage, meaning our ancestral lineage, our cultures, how we're brought up, so on and so forth. DNA activations, universal laws, you have talked about as above so below, and Saturn, when being disloyal to a group or leader, will make your life difficult. If you've been watching me for quite some time, I've had many videos about Saturn and how it's connected to worldwide government and non-government organizations. How to identify a false spiritual guru. I have seen a proliferation of them in the past year and they look and act the part. They are becoming very ingenious, to say the least. Love your videos, you go girl. Sorry, there's a continuation. I completely forgot the role of women in today's world. I am 26 and I have yet to find out. I think a lot of us are still finding out. I know what men's role is. There seems to be a general consensus that the man has to be strong and masculine, yet in touch with his feminine side, has to behave like a true gentleman with integrity and compassionate, and be ambitious, chase their dreams no matter what, have an adventurous life. The ideal for a man is like freedom. But what ideal is there for modern women? Modern woman. I truly believe it's still a work in progress, but I do remember you saying that men normally should do the handiwork, and we as women should let them provide for us, even if we know how to do it ourselves. I remember you saying our strength comes from something related to the womb, and the mysteries kept in the dark. And without women, men cannot achieve true spiritual enlightenment. You have already given snippets of this, but I would love to know your take on it. Thank you. 3 hearts. Yes. So, because we did kind of end here with the whole darkness in the womb and how motherhood. This new age has been really, you know, and when I say new age, you can consider the new age to be kind of a leadership in terms of leading the younger generations to spirituality, atheism, a modern outlook of esotericism, if I even said that correct. Kind of taking old concepts and turning it into something that they believe or you believe hasn't really been brought out before. And it depends on where you're coming from, and it depends on how you're receiving it and how you're looking into this. But there's no such thing as something new. Everything has been done before. Everything. Okay? There is much more darkness in this universe than there is lightness. Okay? Why I brought up the new age? Because in this new age belief system, we hear a lot about darkness cannot outdo darkness, only light can do that. There is a yes to this and there is a no to this, okay? There is more darkness than there is light, okay? So if there is more darkness in this universe, and I'm not going by the sun and the moon because we have 12 hours of sun, supposedly, and depending on where you live, and 12 hours of the moonlight, okay? We still have that moonlight, though. But we have, I'm not going by that. I'm going by this universal space, okay? There's more darkness than there is lightness. So if there's more darkness, then there is lightness. And again, you can go by that as ignorance, unawareness, lack of spiritual self, lack of knowing oneself, lack of circumstances, situations, an approval of something. I don't care how you see this, okay? There is more darkness than there is lightness. There is more lack of than there is of in everything. So if something or someone comes out who has full of lightness, okay? So right now, let's just go by that whole darkness cannot do darkness. Let's go in by this concept now, okay? Of this new age. Darkness cannot outdo darkness. Only light can do that. If light can outdo darkness in this concept of that new age idea, if light, which is knowledge, awareness, becoming aware, just knowing something, coming out to show the public something. This is a form of a lightness, okay? To be a beacon of light, to be a guardian, to be an inspiration for something. To be a leader, to gather people to come together into a religion, a spirituality, a new concept, a new organization. To be a public speaker, to move people into a movement or something is a form of a lightness in a vast space of emptiness, darkness, okay? Everyone, I'd say, let's give a percentage. 80% of that darkness is going to cling to that lightness, okay? So if this world, this universe is full of darkness, it's going to cling on to that lightness. And when that darkness clings on to that lightness, can that light sustain itself while it's giving all its power, its fuel, its energy, its food to that darkness? Because the darkness is going to absorb into that light, and the light may overcome it. But how will that light overcome itself? How will that light sustain itself while everything else is clinging on to it? So it's kind of like when our tummies are empty of fuel, we don't have fuel in our body. We don't have energy, right? We're hungry. So we need to eat. We absorb the nutrients and then we poop out what doesn't serve us, right? So how does that lightness keep sustaining itself while everything in this entire universe is clinging on to it? We kind of have to study, my intention with this is we kind of have to study the laws of nature. Okay, what are the laws of nature? We have to study how animals for centuries have been able to sustain themselves. Okay, we have to study how everything, the laws, the regulations of the cycles of this planet. Forget just these organizations and awareness of humanity or awareness of ignorance or awareness or a lack of ignorance or whatever. We have to go back and study planetary influences. We have to study all this. And I think a lot of times that's why people keep coming up with new age ideas and concepts, is because that's one of the ways on how we become enlightened, if we study something that, you know, because there's no guarantees in life except taxes and death. Everything else, there's no guarantee. Sorry, I kind of got off topic there, but when a man, talking about the male, kind of like it's kind of like a chip, right? Because it's in the word microchip. The male, let's just say the male intent, the sperm, okay? When it's being passed into the woman's womb is nothing but vast darkness. okay? A vast lack of something. And when I say lack of something, it's because there's nothing there to give it a child yet, okay? So it needs to feed off something, absorb something. And by absorbing into a sperm or a man's what's that word? I can't even say it properly. Microchimerism, okay? Needs to absorb it in order for it to develop and to grow another human being or another, because our DNA mixes with the man's DNA, okay? So when it's been said that there's certain cultures or religions out there that believe it doesn't matter what the woman's DNA is, or it doesn't matter anything like that. What's more important is whatever the father is, the child will be. Yes and no. Why yes? Because, like I said, without the man's sperm, without the giver, without that light, which is another concept. I'm not saying necessarily awareness or knowledge or any of that. So many ways on how to look at this. Without that giving seed, like, you know, when you plant a seed, it's dark underground. It's muddy, it's dark. And I'm not downgrading women. I'm not downgrading any of that. But I'm giving you another way of looking at this, okay? When you're about to plant seeds to grow some plants, okay, you need to first plant firm. The ground needs to be healthy. There's that wetness, right, in the soil. The soil needs to be firm, or like, not firm. Well. And cool, because there's nothing there, and underneath there's beings of their own in there, okay? I'm not going to get into detail about that, but I'm sure you get what I'm trying to say. And we plant seeds, and then we close up, and we give water to it, or it gets its sunlight or whatever for the plant or the tree or whatever to grow, right? Kind of like a male sperm or the male DNA. When it's implanted into a woman, the woman absorbs that seed. It absorbs it so that that plant may grow, okay? So without that male, the plant can't grow, because the woman needs to absorb something. So what that basically means is woman absorbs man. She basically eats him up. She's not just eating up a child, she's eating him up. She's literally mixing into his DNA. So a lot of times people don't realize is woman becomes man. That woman becomes the flesh of not just the man she is taking the seed from, but she's becoming part of his DNA. She's become absorbed into his DNA. Whatever intention that man had or has 20,000 years before in his sperm, when his father and their father and their father and his father was impregnating their mother, whatever intention they had during, before, and after sexual reproduction, that whole scenario, how woman is viewed, the role of woman, the woman now, she just absorbed all of that into her body. And therefore, consciously or subconsciously, going back to the darkness of this universe, the lack of awareness, she just absorbed everything. Within the next 9 months and the rest of her living life, while she grows a new child in her belly, while she feeds it, and after she gives birth to it, and for the rest of her life, her entire identity has now changed. And their father and their father and his father was impregnating their mother, whatever intention they had during, before, and after sexual reproduction. That whole scenario, how woman is viewed, the role of woman. The woman now, she just absorbed all of that into her body. And therefore, consciously or subconsciously, going back to the darkness of this universe, the lack of awareness, she just absorbed everything. Within the next 9 months and the rest of her living life, while she grows a new child in her belly, while she feeds it, and after she gives birth to it, and for the rest of her life, her entire identity has now changed. She has now become what that man's sperm and what that man's DNA from his parents, his mother, his father, going back millions and millions and trillions of years ago, she just absorbed into her womb. And in this womb, it will grow in her awareness. It will grow into her new DNA lineage of what she is about to give birth to. And after she gives birth to it, doesn't matter if the parents are married or not married or separated. And I mean legally by the government. Because in all ancient books, marriage was never literally just the paperwork. Marriage was the second you have sex and you have kids, you are now married. Especially if you have any intercourse, that was considered marriage. Because whatever you have sex with, you become. It's a DNA mingle. Okay? So, this kind of goes, again, back and forth with the whole concept or idea of women in today's age, okay? When we go to certain areas of the world, women have absolutely no fucking rights at all, okay? Certain areas of the world, if a woman wants to be educated and go out in public on her own, she will face gas on her face. She will have to, her own family will throw acid on her face. Okay? Because women's role is supposed to be a certain way. And this is in 2017. What was happening on this planet 2,000 years ago? 10,000 years ago? 15,000 years ago? Again, whoever your womb, whatever you are absorbing, that seed that you absorb has now, you've absorbed the intention from the man, from their lineage, from the parents and their ancestors and their ancestors and then their ancestors. So now that you've taken on a new role and you're changing and you're going to regularly change, okay? So let's go to Europe now. In today's age, what's happening in Europe right now? What is Europe facing right now? Can you tell me what Europe is facing right now? If you know, please leave me a comment. I'm going to leave that up to you. I live in Canada. I live in North America. What are women here facing? Okay, one, we have to face this whole concept of, giving birth and stuff like that. Going out and working, taking care of our children. For the non-immigrants, for the Canadian citizens, a lot of them, they have kids, or they don't get married, or they decide to be single. And they want to be independent. They want to be a leader. They say, you know what? I have free time on my hands. I want to get out in the community. I want to serve the people. I want to be out in the public, or I want to be, having a 40-hour job because I have all this time on my hands. And they make $38 an hour, $40 an hour. And so they take on this role. Right? They take on this role. And so we're living in a time right now where there is a lack, there is a darkness of what is woman? What is a woman's role? What is a woman's role? So we're in a time right now where women have the power to change everything. And why I'm saying this is because us women in Europe and North America have the freedom of rights, okay? To change everything. We do. Whenever I do public gathering, meeting, public speaking, I always walk in with a United Nations Human Rights Declaration code. Just in case I say something that may offend a group of people who are either not aware, who are in their own form of darkness, or who are coming from a different concept and ideology of what women are all about, who are from another country, okay? So I walk in there with the Declaration of Human Rights, that I have the right to speak up and that every human individual has equal rights of something. Everyone, okay? But here's the thing. Certain individuals who have grasped this concept and this ideology, awareness that everyone has rights, they've kind of conquered that and kept it away from other people so that they don't get the rights. Okay? So how do us women find out what our role is in this age, in modern times? How do we find out? Either than continuously seeking who we are, what makes us happy, what's good for us, what's not good for us. Let's just leave that out of the picture right now. We need more women who are not afraid of speaking up, who will come out with those. The number one important fact is every human individual has human rights, man or woman, okay? If I'm a refugee and I come to Europe or Canada and I am facing religious or cultural persecution, I've watched it, I've witnessed it, or I have been a subject of human trafficking, or my children have, or my ancestors or my families have, or my neighbor has, and all of a sudden I am moving to a country where, so I just experienced one extreme. And now all of a sudden I'm moving to a country or continent that is openly talking about transgender. Holy shit, what the fuck is going on? Right? What the fuck is going on? It's one extreme to another extreme. I'm not saying what's right or what's wrong, but it's very different. So we need more women to come out who have a very rich ancestry, who have a very rich culture, who have or are experiencing these religious persecutions or human trafficking in their family, to speak up about these things and give real life examples of not just their culture, of not just what's happening in the world, but their own family, what they have faced. Women need to become more stronger and secure with who they are. 5 years ago, there's no way in hell I'd be shaving my head and walking around like this. Everyone stops me and says, you are the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life. And you know what? I don't even expect it. I don't expect it at all. And I till this day, I'm surprised people still say that to me, because I do not want beauty. We're in a world where beauty is worth billions and trillions of dollars. Women want to be beautiful. It's in society that women must be beautiful. Woman is beautiful. Okay? Woman is beautiful. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a woman. Man is attracted to woman because she is another sex. She is woman. Anything that's different than man is attractive. Even man is attractive to man. Okay? In certain areas of the world, you may be persecuted if you're considered gay or lesbian. But let me tell you, it's in the human DNA to be naturally gay or lesbian. And I'm not starting a protest that let's have human rights for gays or lesbians. There's people doing that out there. I don't need to do that, okay? But we need more stronger women. It's much more, I'd say, wiser if one or two or a few women in certain groups of this country or certain groups of cultures that are being persecuted to come out and talk about what's happening, the darkness in these circumstances and cultures of what's happening, and how they can shift things around and work and fight for advocacy or change something for that group of people and face persecution by speaking up. Mind you, please come out with this human rights advocacy or human rights declaration though first. Than to not speak up and be in complete silence and complete ignorance when you know, and when you know the problem, when you see the problem, when it's in your family, and face persecution, rather being able to let hundreds and hundreds and millions of thousands of people persecute and be killed right now. I think it's much wiser to lose one and I'm not saying just because you get up you're going to be killed, okay? But if that was the case, it's wiser to lose 3 people out of millions of people in that same culture, don't you think? So I'd say ignorance is the lack of something, right? Is not coming up and speak of something. So women absorb what's in that family, okay? But history repeats itself because in all ancient so-called religions, if we go to the Buddhist, if we go to the Hindu, okay? All the male gods, if you read them, all those male gods, they didn't have their power without their women, okay? It was women that gave them their strength. So what does that mean? Well, Talara, you were just talking about woman absorbs the man. Man gives the seed. Woman absorbs it, but she becomes it. She becomes it. She becomes him, but she's also becoming a new identity, a new role. So she's constantly transforming. It's a cycle. It's a consistent cycle. Man gives, but he learns from what he's about to learn. He learns from what he's given her because she's constantly learning from her own experiences. She's learning from her own experiences. She's transforming because she's absorbing aeons and centuries of what an identity is, let alone genocides of what's happened in his ancestry and hers, okay? She's absorbing death, life. She's absorbing disease. She's absorbing health. She's absorbing everything. We have millions and millions of diseases and cancer cells in our bodies, okay? We all have it. No matter how healthy we are, we have it in our bodies. So if we are having sexual intercourse and an orgasm and then giving birth with another being, we're having sexual intercourse, we're literally learning from our own experiences. She's transforming because she's absorbing aeons and centuries of what an identity is, let alone genocides of what's happened in his ancestry and hers, okay? She's absorbing death, life. She's absorbing disease. She's absorbing health. She's absorbing everything. We have millions and millions of diseases and cancer cells in our bodies, okay? We all have it. No matter how healthy we are, we have it in our bodies. So if we are having sexual intercourse and an orgasm and then giving birth with another being, we're having sexual intercourse, we're literally absorbing each other's life, death, cancer into one. So this topic can go on for on and on and on and on. And I can sit here and say, yes, women are supposed to be compassionate and loving and caring and this and that. But really, the identity of women and the role of women is so confusing. Because if we want to compare women with darkness and the womb being a vast lack of, or a darkness, because it needs that seed, or that needs that sperm in order for a child to grow and to feed off. And you know, again, I'm just going by that concept of what I was just talking about. There's so many ways on how to look at it. We don't have to compare it to like a woman's womb being ignorance or lack of this or darkness. Okay, I'm just giving you one little. Until we have more women, let me tell you what's ignorance. I'm going to tell you what's darkness and ignorance. A woman who's been sheltered all her life. A woman who's never experienced or is not even aware of cultural persecutions, religious persecutions to come up. A woman that's never been raped. A woman that has never gone through any pain or sorrow in these areas, which let's just say 99.9% of women have. But let's just say she's never experienced any of that. And she comes out and she talks about these things. It may be nice and it's a benefit if somebody comes out and talks. But when it comes to real practical knowledge of this, it's not going to make much difference, because she will not be able to know how to help a person or a culture, because she won't get it. When she's faced in these real life situations and scenarios, she won't get it. So we need more women who have, I don't care what culture you're in, okay? Genocide is found in every fucking country in this planet. I live in Canada. Canada is very ignorant when it comes to genocide, but yet we're living on lands where the only reason why we have freedom, so-called freedom, which we don't necessarily even have, is because we're living on lands that is benefiting from the manslaughter of natives. And we are being taught that the only grand genocide or Holocaust was a Jewish Holocaust that happened, let's say, 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago. Well, I would say this is a vast universe of darkness then, isn't it? Because every ancient civilization that has come down, every extinct culture, every old way of life has extinct because of a genocide. Genocide is nothing new. It never has been new. Okay? So, we absorb that. We absorb, and we don't even know what we're absorbing. Women become her husband or her partner's DNA when they have sex and they reproduce together and have children together. So woman's role is much more grand than a man's role. It will always be much more grand, much more difficult and harder. And I'm not here to offend a man, because it's very difficult to be a man too, in terms of if a woman is you know, I see it all the time too, where like you'll see one extreme to another in this country, you know. You'll see, you know, a woman, I'm not even talking about women going out of their way and paying for dinner or paying for rent. That's not what it is to be a strong woman, okay? To me, that's not what a strong woman is. And that may be your opinion. I'm not telling you, let him pay. I'm not telling you how to live your life. Do whatever you want. Paying for dinner does not make you a strong woman. It may be a stepping stone to getting there and finding out. But if you identify roles as who's paying for who, then that means this is just the beginning for you. Because a lot of times we will always be learning, okay? And any man that comes out and says he has the answer to help women, there's no man that has an answer to help women. Most women don't know how to help most women. There are women out there that can help women, but it's the women who have had some severe fucked up situations that have the power to help other women. But it's the lack of support to push them to get out and to speak, okay? Because the most traumatized woman is the key to finding to unlock that door to where or what our identity roles are, what are in this modern world. Because this modern world is not so modern. Okay? Europe, that has been known to be very liberal, is now facing something that's not so modern, is it? At the end of the day, a man leader can never understand or help or support overall women. He doesn't have a womb. He doesn't have a vagina. He doesn't have the cycles of what women do. I'm just going by physicality right now. He may be able, maybe he's a university student. Maybe he's a maybe he's a freaking gynecologist. I don't know. Maybe he's studied, maybe he's experienced and learned, but it's all in the books. He doesn't actually have a vagina. He doesn't have breasts that swell. I understand you can go and you become a transgender and you want to experience, but you still don't have the ovaries. I can't come up and teach about being a man because at the end of the day, I don't have a dick. I don't have sperm flying out of my dick. I can't reproduce. I cannot, as a man, if I wanted to get a dick and grow a dick and become a hairy man by having surgery or becoming transgender or a male. And I'm not disrespecting at all, please. I hope I'm not disrespecting anyone, but in order to shake people up and get what I'm trying to get at, I may offend someone. I will not be able to produce a child because at the end of the day, my body cannot do it, even if I have a dick, because I'm not born as a male, right? So I think they're coming up with these concepts on how to physically engineer transgender until they realize, or maybe they've done it already and maybe I'm ignorant and maybe I'm unaware of, maybe there actually is surgical placements on how I can have surgery to become a man or a transgender, and they insert something in my penis, and now all of a sudden I have sperm, and now they insert this sperm into a woman of my choice, and now I can give birth, or my woman can give birth from my sperm, even though I'm born as a woman, which is probably, I don't know, maybe they've done it already. Somebody let me know, maybe they're doing it and I'm not even aware. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe that's what if they haven't figured it out, I'm sure they're trying to right now. Figure out if you can be born a woman and actually end up genetically modified to have your surgery or your sperm, man-made sperm, or hormones turn into a sperm and then be passed on to a woman. They probably have figured that out, or it's not publicly out yet. They're trying to. But that's a different story. That's a different topic. But the point is, the biggest point here is, women absorbs everything. Everything. She absorbs everything. When a woman goes in that shower, when she takes a shower, she's absorbing that water. Men absorb it too. Everybody does. But that water builds up her intuition. And then if she goes and has intercourse with a man, even if he's not impregnating her, she's taking in his intention of her in. She's taking in to her ovaries in her womb the identity and the role of what a woman should be. And if it's not his, and he's not aware, it's someone in his ancestry that implanted that intention in him, that she's implanting it from him. Or she's taking it. A lot of times it would break down and then a new leadership would come up. We were living in an age, the age of Taurus was all about women leaders. There was women leaders everywhere. There were lots of queens, lots of goddesses on this planet. So, yeah, I can go on and on, but let's change the topic because it's almost 40 minutes, okay? Talking about, not the topic, but going back to universal laws. I don't know if I kind of touched base on that. You talked about as above, so below, which is history repeats itself, okay? If we talk about Taurus, the age of Taurus, goddesses ruled this planet. Women ruled this planet. And it's not that man had no say, he had say, but it was about equality, more so of that, okay? When Saturn rules Saturn next to the Earth is 700 Earths, okay? Saturn is 700 Earths. So if you look at the size of the Earth, one of them is not even equivalent to Saturn because Saturn is 700 of Earths. That means Saturn is huge. Without order, we have chaos all over this planet. We have chaos in this universe, okay? Saturn will have you, your life purpose, have you tossing and turning, not sleeping, having your head smash against the wall until you figure out ways on how you can get order out of chaos. Okay, so your womb is empty and you're now impregnated and now you're throwing up. You're feeling all these emotions. Your body's going through changes. Perhaps your body's absorbing some sort of disease first, or your body's absorbing the man's great grandparents' depression. Maybe they went through genocide. The woman's absorbing it. She doesn't know what it's experiencing, but she's absorbing it into her body. Whatever they experienced, it's in his genes. It's in his DNA. She's absorbing it now because her body's trying to make a child with that side of the family. So this is chaos because she's experiencing freaking pimples on her face. Her hair, she's losing her hair. Maybe her hair is growing. Maybe she's getting hair on her body where she never thought she could possibly have hair on her body. Okay, so there's chaos. And she's vomiting and she's hungry and she wants ice cream. She hated ice cream before, but she loves ice cream now. She's experiencing chaos, so she needs to find this order. So the body is trying to find its proper room and nourishment in order to make room for a physicality, a physical child. Saturn is all about structure and physicality. So our bones, our bones are made up of Saturn too. Like our bones, our teeth, our blood. There's the Saturnalian, DNA. How does this make sense on planet Earth? It makes a lot of sense because the Earth revolves around other planets. It absorbs, the Earth, like a female, absorbs its seeds from the cycles of what's around it. Saturn governs anything organized, okay? We need more women to come out in organizations. We need more women to create organizations. And the younger, the better. Why? Because these younger generations are able to change something up. It's after 25 years of age, it's very difficult to change something. Not saying it can't be done, it can be done, but it's harder and harder and harder and harder. Saturn, when being disloyal to a group or leader, will make your life difficult. How? Okay. Let's just say I'm a leader. Okay? I've just been impregnated. My womb now has a seed. I just absorbed my partner's DNA. I've just absorbed trillions and trillions of years of intentions into my body, into my existence. Living organisms into my body. And not even did I just absorb it, I'm creating with it. It's creating me. Okay? It's creating me. So what do? But because I'm a full woman, I'm not 12 years old. I'm not 9 years old. It's not easily able to take over me unless I let it, right? I'm consciously aware now that that can happen. So how? I have to let it teach me something, first off. And during the process of it teaching me, I have to be able to kind of teach the coming generations, okay? You will face, Saturn has genocide tendencies too, right? Because if we break away the old, we're facing a form of a genocide, okay? It's a form of a genocide. In Greek mythology, Saturn devours its own children in order to absorb, in order to outdo, in order to be the father of all fathers, okay? But what happens is karma. You get what you give. Saturn had a child, Jupiter, that outdid its father. So you learn from your elders. You learn from your experiences. You learn from genocide. There are certain cultures out there that by being, or people in certain cultures out there, that by learning from these traumatic experiences, being able to be strong enough, wise enough, have come out and said, this is what happened to me. This is what's happening in the world. What the fuck is going on? I'm here to change this. I don't care if you kill me. I'd rather you kill me than you kill an entire population of half the world or half my people. But if you kill my people, you're also killing every human individual, because we're all fucking interrelated. We've all mingled with each other. We all have absorbed each other's DNA line. How do you detect a false guru or a false spiritual leader? A man who claims to know everything. That's how you know. Another way to know is if a man or a woman points his finger at one specific culture, yet then you see that same person who is befriending or starting an organization or is with the group of people who is funding or who has funded that group. Keep your eyes open, okay? Because there's a lot of false gurus. You see these false leaders out there, okay? They're pointing fingers at who's the ISIS, who's starting ISIS, who is ISIS. Let's blame the Kurds, let's blame the Turks. Who is funding? First off, who is funding? Do you know who's funding it? Do you know who's funding it? If you can find out if it's an actual person, if it's an actual culture, if it's an actual this or that, just pay attention, okay? Any person who claims to know everything about everything is a false guru. Okay, I gotta stop this video. It's about 50 minutes, okay? I hope this answered. If it doesn't, sorry. But that's the whole point of life. We're not supposed to know everything because we're supposed to keep rotating. There's always going to be a new something coming out, but it's always the new something of an old something. Remember, what is the lesson? The lesson is Saturn wanted to outdo everyone. Saturn wanted to outdo everyone because Saturn is a leader. Saturn is organized. Saturn is a leader. And because Saturn devoured its own children in order to stay number one, or the top of the pyramid, Saturn had a child to outdo its father. That's the lesson. Okay? Bye.